Today we're going to cook with very little measuring that quinoa recipe. We'll just call it TQR because we don't really have a name for it. But let me show you first what's in it, and I've got a set of what I call required ingredients, things you've got to include to make it taste good, and then things that you can adjust and play with. So here's the required ingredients for this dish to make it taste really good. Quinoa, and I've got about a glass worth. Chicken broth, you can use vegetarian, vegetable broth, that's fine, but the broth makes a big difference in the flavor at the end. Balsamic vinegar, something else you really can't leave out, or it doesn't taste the same. And pesto, I'm just going to use this whole jar. Don't skimp on this either, that makes a big difference. Also, vegetables that we really like and that we call them required are some cherry tomatoes, asparagus, we really like red bell pepper, onions. I'll cut them large so Liza can leave them out because she doesn't like them. And for the non-required or optional ingredients, so here's some sampling of other vegetables you can include. I've chosen broccoli, a favorite in my family, cauliflower, I like that, carrots, butternut squash, and I have actually started, I peeled the outside, and you can control how quickly this cooks by the size of the pieces you cut it in. I'm going to cut these in pretty tiny pieces because it takes a little longer to cook in the oven. So you're going to want to cut these up, but first it's a really good idea to get your quinoa cooking. So let's start talking about that. The quinoa gets cooked on the stove, and I'm going to add my 1 measure of quinoa in this, and I put 1.5 times this as well in a recipe if I want to add more. And then I'm going to cook it in the chicken broth. You can cook it in vegetable broth to make it vegetarian if you'd like, but we found this really makes a big difference. And you want this to be twice as much, so I'm just going to do this. And you can follow the directions on the label of the quinoa package, or just cook this on the stove, let it simmer until it absorbs the quinoa absorbs all the liquid. So I'm going to put that on and get that started while I take care of the vegetables. Okay, the quinoa is behind me cooking on the stove, and I'm going to turn on my sprayer here and rinse off the vegetables so I know they're clean. Okay, I've cut up the vegetables that are going to take a little longer to cook, the onions, carrots, cauliflower, and the butternut squash. But I wanted to show you what kind of amounts. And I'm going to put them on a cookie sheet. That's to my, let's put it over here so you can see what I'm doing. I'll put them on a cookie sheet and then stick in the oven to roast in the oven. Now you can see the relative sizes of the pieces, which helps. Sometimes I like putting them in an organized way, but it doesn't really matter. And this looks pretty orange and white right now, but we want to add some green. Add some green, and it'll look so much better. And at this point, what we want to do is sprinkle everything with balsamic vinegar. And then if you have a little olive oil, sometimes helps, but I've done that with and without, and either way is fine. And I'm going to stick this in the oven until it gets soft. So I'll stick it in the oven right now, and then I'll be preparing the other vegetables. So those first set of vegetables are in the oven at 350, just beginning to get soft, I hope. I'm going to cut up these vegetables, the remaining choice vegetables. Actually, they're not choice. These are key. We'll slice these in half. I like putting these in little pieces like this, but you don't have to. And then the rest of these, I like putting these in relatively big pieces, maybe the size of a quarter. And do the same thing. Spread them on a pan lined with parchment paper and sprinkle them with balsamic. See, here's the rest of the vegetables. I put the peppers on the inside because they'll cook more quickly, and then these the broccoli and the asparagus on the outside. And I'm going to sprinkle these with balsamic vinegar, and maybe a little olive oil this time. So you can get a little olive oil on it, and then and put this in the oven to roast a little bit until they're soft. Oven's about 350. So meanwhile, the quinoa has cooked, and here you can see it's absorbed all the liquid. And I'm going to stick that quinoa into a bowl. And make your bowl pretty big because you're going to put all the vegetables, quinoa, and actually the pesto into it. So there's my quinoa. And here's the pesto, and I'm going to put it in pieces and then stir it around a little bit. You can see I put about half then. I'll stir it around, and then I'll add more when the vegetables go in. So we'll combine everything in this bowl. Here's the first set of vegetables that were in the oven, and I poke them with a fork, and I can see they're pretty soft. I can see these are cooked. They're soft. So I know they're going to be cooked. I'll stick them in the oven yet again, but yeah, they're pretty soft. I verified that, and I want to put all these vegetables in the bowl. And I really like parchment paper because not only does it have the pan pretty clean, but I can pick up the last of them sometimes and slide them into the bowl. At this point, I'll add some more of the pesto and stir that up. I just want to be sure the pesto is going to be well mixed here. Now I need the other vegetables. So here's the second set of vegetables. You can really tell when they're done. The broccoli gets really bright green, but you want to test to be sure it's soft enough. They definitely are soft enough. So I'm going to then take these, throw them in there with some pesto, and I'm thinking here's some pesto I'll throw in there. And I'm thinking I'm going to add a little bit more than 1 jar of pesto. So here's the green and red vegetables. I'll mix them up. And I'm going to add the last of this jar of pesto. And I remember the first time I made it, I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe how much pesto I'm adding. It seems like so much, but it was really important because when I cut back, I'm going to add an additional, I don't know, chunk, piece. It's a different brand, so it looks a little bit different. It'd be really awesome if I made my own pesto, but I live in New Mexico and it's hard to grow things out here. So I'll stir it up, and I'm going to put it into a pan. I don't have to prepare the pan in any way. I'm just putting it in a 13 by 9 by 2 pan. It should cover the bottom. If you've made more, obviously it'll fill more than one pan. So you want to spread it relatively thin. If it's thick, it just doesn't finish cooking as nicely. And really at this point, all you want to do is heat up all the ingredients together. I'm salivating because I can smell the pesto. So this is just such a tasty dish. And one of the things my family likes is and this doesn't work with the vegan option. Well, I guess we used chicken broth, so that's not very vegan either. But I like to sprinkle some mozzarella cheese on top. That adds a really nice touch. So I'm going to just sprinkle some shredded mozzarella cheese on top. A couple handfuls. I don't know. Sometimes, we don't have to do this, but we like it because mozzarella gets pretty stringy and pretty fun, and it actually adds a nice texture as well as a nice flavor. In addition to the protein, the protein in the dish comes mostly from the quinoa. Quinoa is a high protein grain. I've also made this by adding some cooked chicken strips. We've done it with shrimp. I think that's it for meat additions, and we seem to like the chicken best of all. The shrimp doesn't work as well, but it does work. Some people might like it. I have not tried fish in it, but I think that could taste really good. Now I'm going to go put this in the oven until it's warm and the cheese is melted. So let's come back when it comes out of the oven. Now it's been in there about 10 minutes, not even very long. Let's check out what it looks like. So I can smell the pesto. But let's have a look at this in the oven. I'll take it out now and you can see what it looks like. So before we look at it, as some of you know, I hate to waste a hot oven. So I've got some cookies ready to go in. So I'm going to slip those in the oven first. With the cookies in the oven, let's look at this. The cheese is melted on the top here. And it makes for a great casserole. Vegetarian, you can make it a vegan option. You can add chicken for increase the protein. Notice you can adjust the vegetables as you like, or the protein, that you're really cooking without measuring anything. You're just putting in what you like. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is our quinoa recipe.